What we talk about, it goes deep, something to watch. Even from the nosebleeds, the fans been waiting, anticipating for the whole week. Cause we making moves and breaking news, no time for cold feet. Don't confuse, you know the rules and that we play to win. You ain't prepared to take it.
Hey, what's up, good people? And thanks for tuning in to the inaugural episode of season number 2 of WTF Too, Women Talk Football Too. That's right, we're back. Just like Sammy Watkins is back on the East Coast now that he signed a 1-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Did you miss us? Barnell Hill show voice, on the episode of Martin. Martin fans, you folks can relate. Anyway, nonetheless, I'm Latasha Miles, aka Joan Madden, the Gridiron Goddess, and I'm joined by my lovely, talented, knowledgeable, and very wise co-host. Introduce yourself to the people.
Y'all know it's the one and only Shalika McCrimmon, also known as the Touchdown Tomboy. Oh, we ready, y'all. Girl, it's been so freaking long, man. I was like, we gotta link back up, but we gotta give the people what they looking for. Are you ready? Because I'm ready.
Back by popular demand, no doubt. We are reunited like Carson Wentz is reunited with Frank Reich. And with the pandemic, we did take a sabbatical hiatus. As we all know, the coronavirus has changed everything. So we made a few changes as well, starting up with how we usually do the episodes when the games are actually playing. But any true football fan knows that football season never sleeps. Such as a time like right now is no other. It's no different. And that's the free agency period. So the things have been going really, really bizarre in this free agency period. So today we are going to recap some of those, the good, the bad, the ugly, and maybe even some of the why. So let's kick this thing off with the first quarter with one of the most unpredictable moves when we saw J.J. Watt and the Texans had mutually decided to part ways. Now, that part wasn't so much as a surprise, but we did know that it was wide open. It was open season, that J.J. Watt could realistically join any of the other 31 teams. Now, would he join his younger brothers in Pittsburgh? Would he stay within the state and go to the Dallas Cowboys instead of the Texans? Would he cause a divisional civil war and join the Colts, the Jags, or the Titans? But I think one thing we really didn't see coming, except maybe DeAndre Hopkins and Chris Paul, was Watt going to the Cardinals. That is until he pulled off one of the most trillest moves and let it be known that he was going, and the source wasn't first person, me. Now, Touchdown Tomboy, what did you think of this unpredictable move by the veteran and the Cardinals?
Yeah, out of all the places that JJ could have gone, you like, gosh, he's going to the Cardinals. Why? And it's kind of like, the Cardinals? Why? So for me, JJ, go get your paper, man. Hey, go get your bread. But I'm happy for JJ. I think that they're doing some pretty interesting things down in there. They just signed Malcolm Butler to a 1-year deal down there, and the only thing that kind of worrisome to me is how the Cardinals signed him, and he's at the end of his career. So it's kind of like, how much work are they going to get out of J.J. Watt this season? So, that's the thing about, for me, in regards to J.J. Watt this season, is how much of an impact player is he really going to be for the Cardinals this year? Defensively, and then, Patrick Peterson is no longer there, and I'm sure Buda Baker will be back, but it's kind of like, I just don't know, because, they got a lot of vets on this team, and so I just don't know how that's going to fare when you're coming up against these young kids who are fresh out of school, fresh out of the draft, and they're quick, they're fast, and don't get me wrong, JJ is one of the best to ever do it, but I just don't know, with all the injuries he's had, I just don't know how well he's going to be able to fare, but I guess we'll all see when the season starts.
And a lot of those reasons that you mentioned are the exact reasons why I like this move, and especially the first person point of view, which Derek Jackson, you could certainly take note to that. But yeah, you're right. Watt's age, the injuries that he's had, definitely huge concerns there. But it's still that underlying tenacity, his passion, those intangibles that you cannot teach that he brings to the game. And I think this move to Arizona, it's a lot less pressure for him. I mean, he's not really the face of the franchise like he was when he was with the Texans. You know, the reunion with Hopkins. So there's already some familiarity. Hopkins will kind of show him the ropes, get him more comfortable with the environment. And there's still 8 home games in a dome, a territory he's familiar with, you know, with Houston having a dome. And he won't be playing every down, but above all, I think his presence on and off the field as a leader is a push that Arizona really needs. And I think it's something that they've kind of been missing. I mean, I don't want to take away anything from Suggs when he signed with Arizona, but I think Watt's presence will be a lot more, it'll be a lot more kind of aggressive, for lack of a better word. I think that that's a better fit for him. And I definitely see this move making him have a better record with Arizona than the Texans will have, probably even one of the better records he's had ever in his career by going to the Cardinals. And I think also this year we'll see a very unique situation for both Watt and the Cardinals. And I actually see them maybe even making a move to the postseason with this junction between these two. Now, moving on to the second quarter, a very dysfunctional team. And yes, I will be one of the first to call them that. I mean, it is my team. And I mean, I hate it, but I got to keep it real. I mean, we started off with an 11-0 flawless record. We definitely picked the wrong time to get cold at the end of the season. And that reared its ugly head in the first round against the division rival Cleveland Browns, which we had played for the 3rd time in the season. Now, since Election Day, way back in November, I have been giving my boys the Pittsburgh Steelers the Mary J. Blige there. You know, take a look at that picture right there. Yeah, that's kind of the look I've been giving my Steelers since then. I mean, it all started with Marquise Pouncey, who's definitely irreplaceable, him retiring, a void that we will not fill. And you could see the passion on the sidelines, the tears flowing, because we knew he was gone. So we're not going to be able to replace him. An older Ben Roethlisberger, another year. Ben just had a birthday in March, and I think he turned 38, 39, definitely late 30s, knocking on the door of 40. And then the uncertainty of Juju's tenure. But both of them finally graciously, thank the Lord, they signed a 1-year deal. But as usual, we were not aggressive in free agency. And this Bud Dupree not returning to my Steelers, you know, that right there really baffled me. I mean, I kind of saw it coming because he was in the last year of his contract and he got hurt. So the writing was kind of on the wall there. But what bothered me more so about it is it wasn't really a tug of war. Like, they didn't agree on money. They couldn't come to terms. I kind of could have swallowed the pill a little bit better if it was like that. But we were very dismissive with Bud Dupree. Like, yeah, go ahead, seek free agency. Thanks for coming out. God bless you. Good night. And my Russell Simmons voice, I didn't like the way that it went down. But yeah, we seemed really, really defensive in this, dismissive rather. And this is a guy coming off double-digit sacks the year before. He was well on his way to doing that this year before getting hurt. And I think that he was going to surpass that. So my only glimmer of hope is that somehow, some way, Tennessee just does not utilize him correctly. I mean, they are a team who struggled in the sacks department last year. I mean, you take sacks department store over Tennessee in the sacks department last season. So the selfish part in me really hopes that he's not as successful. I mean, I'm keeping it real. I hope he's not as successful with Tennessee, but again, I'm very selfish in that. But at the end of the day, this man got a new knee. So he's most likely going to be very, very quick, coming off on the ends and really, really providing some pass rush and some pressure and some sacks on the opposition. So I think he'll be successful, and kudos to him. So hopefully Tennessee will get their money's worth with that. TT, what do you think about the status of Bud Dupree and the Steelers in free agency?
You know, be honest, I've been a little baffled by some of the things that the Steelers have done this year. You know, at first they said, well, we're not going to bring Ben back. We're going to let him walk. And then they restructured his contract. Well, we're not going to bring Juju back. And then we bring him back on a 1-year deal. Then you let Mike Hilton walk to the Bengals, who's in your division. I don't understand that. Then, you know, Bud Dupree, who's like one of the best edges in the league, and just let him walk out of the door, knowing good and well that Devin Bush is coming off injury. I'm like, what is happening? Like, and Marquise Pouncey is retired. So it's kind of like, I have no clarity what the Steelers are doing this year. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you guys are trying to restructure on defense. I'm not quite sure exactly what the game plan is. Maybe Mike Tomlin has something up his sleeve. But yeah, that definitely was a surprise to me. I definitely wish Bud Dupree well in Tennessee, but I think you're definitely gonna miss him. He you know, Bud Dupree was special. Bud Dupree was special, and I felt like Bud Dupree was a lot of the reason why Devin Bush was so successful. And because of that, I just don't know if it's gonna work the same. And so it's just gonna be interesting to see how you guys work next season, especially getting pressure up front, what your secondary is gonna look like, you know, because you got a lot of pieces that are missing. And with Big Ben struggling, it's just gonna be interesting to see how that all develops in this off season and going into next year. And then I don't know what your draft capital look like. I haven't even started to look at that. So yeah, I just don't know what the thought process was in that, but I think that maybe it was because they were concerned that he wouldn't come back as fast or he wouldn't be as much of an impact player. That's the only thing that I could gather. But yeah, that was kind of puzzling to me too. But yeah, that I don't know what your Steelers were doing. I have no clue. What were you Steelers doing?
I had no idea either.
You know, nobody ever knows what the Rooney family has going on. Nobody ever knows what Mike Tomlin is thinking except Mike Tomlin. He's one of the best at what he does. So I'm not going to say that I count him out yet, but I am concerned about some of these free agency moves. I will say that. So, I mean, yeah. This year, I'm going to try to do some interesting fun facts, okay? So this year, I wanted to start off, of course, because we're talking about the game of football. I wanted to actually talk about if anybody knew the fun fact about how the actual football itself was developed. So basically, the pigskin football, it was originally just inflated from the bladders of pigs. That's disgusting, right? It was inflated from the bladders of pigs, okay? And that's how it came up with the whole pigskin name, because it came from pigskin. And years later, what ended up happening is of course, after the disgustingness of the bladder of they started wrapping it in leather. And then once they started wrapping it in leather, I guess the durability of the ball allowed the bladder to last longer. And then what eventually ended up happening in the 1860s, once Mr. Charles Goodyear developed rubber, they actually formulated it from the oval ball, which they use in rugby, to now the oblong ball, which is the pigskin ball, which is the pointy-shaped ball, which you see today. That's an interesting fun fact about how the football was actually developed and why they still call it the pigskin.
I had no idea about that. I mean, it was really weird, like the pigskin, you kind of knew it had to be some type of relation to it, a pig and coming from a pig, but I had no idea about this bladder stuff and like it definitely does sound disgusting. But wow, so they basically got the kind of like, this was the equivalent of football, was like the equivalent to chitlins when it comes to a delicatessen. Like so the football is the chitlins, the equivalent to the chitlins when it comes to all types of the baseball versus the basketball. They like filet mignons and salmon, and then here we go with chitlins for the football. Wow, I had no idea about that. I'm so glad that developed. Thank you, Charles Goodyear, and anybody that was involved in making sure that got cleaned up. Wow, that's a good one. Touchdown time.
What's crazy about this whole thing, though, is I'm trying to figure out of everything that you could have created, what made you think to use the pig's bladder? Inflated pig bladder. I wonder if it has something to do with maybe the elasticity or the durability of the pig bladder. I don't know. I'm gonna do further research on that, though. I'm gonna look that up, and maybe I might be able to add a little something to that, because I'm interested in knowing now. But yeah, I looked that up earlier, and I was like, man, I never really did that. But I just thought that was an interesting fun fact. Since we're talking about football, people should know exactly where the pigskin name came from, and it really did come from pigskin. So that's where pigskin came from, the pigskin football.
That is crazy. So we get ham, baked pork chops, and bacon, sausage, chitlins, ham. Oh gosh, yeah, football too. Wow. How about that? The versatility of the pig. Well, that's a great segue to kind of switch some gears here a little bit into the third quarter and talk about some versatile quarterbacks. Some of the bigger quarterback moves, touchdown tomboy Cam, of course, re-signing to the Patriots, a move you and I been called. We told everybody week 3, we told them that what else were they going to do? We knew that Cam was going to come back to the Patriots. Nobody listened to us, but here we are, accurate as usual. Chicago tried to be aggressive and trade for Russell Wilson, journeyman Ryan Fitzpatrick, signing with the Washington football team. I almost said Redskin, Pigskin, but oops, sorry, Washington football team. Still not quite all the way used to that one season in. The Saints replacement quarterback, Dak's big payday, and the drama with Deshaun Watson. So what are your evaluation on these players, touchdown tomboy?
So I'm gonna try to keep this as concise as possible, but I got some things to say. Well, Cam is back with the pack, as we so called it, of course. I tried to tell the people, why would he not be back? I mean, you give the man a shot at half of a season. He doesn't know a full playbook. I mean, at least give him a fair shake with a full season. I mean, give the man a real shot with some real players. That's all I say. Before we just say he's trash and he's bad and he's washed, let's see what he can do when he got real players. Okay, that's what I want to see. Okay. So now the flip side to that is that the rumor mill is swirling that Jimmy G may be coming back. Now there may be some truth to that, which we'll deal with that later, because all the instances with San Francisco trying to move up in the draft and all of that. But I don't know how the validity of that. But if it does happen, it'll be the same way the Cam happened. They'll get him on the low. But with Jimmy G, he's so injury prone. I just don't know how well that'll fare. Now, when we go to Chicago, I actually like Russell Wilson in Chicago, but I knew that the Seahawks weren't going to let Russell Wilson go. I mean, let's just be honest. He's everything they got. He's their bag of chips and everything else. What else were they going to do? They couldn't let him go. Everybody was going to walk out of the door with him, so they couldn't let him go. So the best that Chicago do was to go and get Andy Dalton, okay? I mean, the way it is now, they said, hey, we're going to get Andy Dalton. Can't do no worse than we've already done. That's what I like. Now, the one thing that I like more than anything else is Fitzmagic is back in Washington, baby. Listen, this is the move that I like more than any of them, okay? Washington didn't need a lot last year. Washington just needed somebody that was just going to establish them, that was just going to give them a fair shake. And the one thing that I like about Fitzmagic is when he's on, he's on, but when he's off, he's off. And all they just need is somebody that's just just give him balance, and I think Fitzmagic will do that. They were able to get him at a good deal. I think he'll deliver exactly what they asked him to do. And Washington is a team that you're going to look for, and I think they'll be again in the postseason. So they've added some offensive weapons, and they've added a corner in the back. Well, I'm going to talk about them later on, okay? Y'all don't worry about that. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me come on back. All right. Now, for the Saints, I'm going to tell y'all now, the New Orleans Saints that y'all don't think about to walk on out this field and going to be trash, they're not going to be bad. They're going to be a decent team again next year, okay? And I'm going to tell you that Sean Payton is going to have Jameis Winston ready. Jameis Winston is going to be their starter, not Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is going to continue to be their gadget back. I believe that Jameis Winston is going to be their starter next season. And I believe that Jameis Winston is going to be a lot better than people think he's going to be. Okay? I think that he's going to deliver the bill of goods this time. Now, do I think he'll make some mistakes? Probably. But the boy got a cannon for an arm, and I think that if anybody can fix him it's gonna be the Sean Payton. Sean Payton, if Sean Payton can't fix him, I just don't know who can. So I'm actually interested and I'm excited about seeing this, okay? So that's gonna be one of my sleeper teams, even though I love my Panthers, okay? Don't you tell no Panthers that I said this, okay? But I know that Jameis Winston, I'm not, listen now, I think he's gonna be better than people giving him credit for. Now I ain't gonna say he's better than my boys, but I think that he's gonna be better than people give him credit for. Now, the one thing out of all of this that has just made me so sad, I can't even discuss the Deshaun Watson. It's just, I don't know. I can't even discuss it because it's a mess. It's just a whole mess. And all I can say is that I just think it's very, very ironic that none of this stuff started happening until he declared that he wanted out of Houston. And that to me is the most puzzling thing. They're saying, oh, it just was a coincidence. I don't know. I try not to get into particulars. I try not to, but it's just something ain't shaking right about this tree. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? My grandma used to say, you don't like my apples, don't shake my tree, and something ain't shaking right in this tree. Okay, that's all I can tell you about that. That's all I got for you right now. And then, girl, listen, go ahead, because I'm getting ahead of myself. Just go.
No doubt. Well, I definitely agree with a lot of stuff that you said, especially my fellow Taurus, Cam Newton. I'm so glad that Bill Belichick, I usually call him Belichick, but I will respect the name Belichick because they are really, really using their stimmy checks. And they really got Cam some weapons this time instead of those Dollar Tree receivers that he's been accustomed to. I mean, no shade, just keep it real. I actually saw somebody on the internet said that Bill Belichick has helped Cam offensively in 1 week more than Carolina did in 9 years.
Listen, if Cam Newton don't deliver the goods this year, I'm going to tell him to retire. I would be thoroughly surprised.
Right. I mean, like, he does have some accuracy issues, but with all that being said, I think people forgot that Cam was really, really off to a good start with the Patriots. He almost beat the Seattle Seahawks single-handedly, but that was on the defense. Like, the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed, and Seattle scored. They had the ball last. Plus, Cam caught COVID. People I know who have caught COVID, they still have some struggles, some after effects afterwards. Like, it does, even though it goes away, like you test negative and you get your taste and stuff back, there's still some after effects. And I think that might still have, I'm not giving Cam an excuse, but I still think that that's a factor as well. Oh, speaking of COVID, there were 6, 7, 8 defensive players who opted out last year of the Patriots who, due to COVID, and most of them are coming back. Now, Patrick Chung won't be one of them, of course, because he retired. But I think also Cam having some defense to kind of set him up for better field position, I think that's going to help him as well. I really like the fact that they signed him, and I feel very optimistic about Cam next year. And with Chicago. Now, I appreciate the efforts. I totally agree with you. I would have loved to have seen Russell Wilson in Chicago, new setting, new environment, deep dish pizza, all of that. I would have loved to have seen Russell Wilson in there. But Seattle, you are foolish to even have entertained that because you trade away Pete Carroll, his khakis, his chinos, his gum, everything out of Seattle before you give up Sierra's husband. That's the guy. That is the in and out, the up and down. Like the only way you would get rid of Russell Wilson is maybe injury, he retires, is phased out, something like that. But otherwise, you do not entertain the fact of getting rid of Russell Wilson. Are you kidding me? I totally agree with you about Ryan Fitzpatrick, one of the most successful journeymen in the NFL, vintage experience, great leadership. He's not a cancer to any locker room. And I think that's a perfect setting for him with a Ron Rivera type coach. I love that union. And again, like you said, with the Washington football team, they're fresh off of the postseason. And I think that this is a step forward, not a step back, as some teams often do make. I really like the Ryan Fitzpatrick move, and his veteran and leadership, and possibly even helping set up the possible future in Tyler Heineke. This is a great piece to that puzzle to help set him up as well. Dallas, the Dak Prescott situation. Look, yeah, I get it. You all look like lost puppies without Dak. I get it. And I know Dak was asking for Patrick Mahomes' money, but you fools really gave him Patrick Mahomes' money when Patrick Mahomes has went to 3 consecutive championship games, and that game went to not now 1. And y'all gave him Patrick Mahomes type money, and this dude's postseason record is very shabby and very questionable. You down there in Dallas, what you did was put all your eggs in that one Easter basket in Dak Prescott. That's it. In the future, he has handcuffed you from really being able to do anything in the future. You got to pay Zeke money. You got these diva receivers. Like, I don't understand. Like, I cannot believe that y'all really, really gave him that much Patrick Mahomes type money for a guy who is not proven in the postseason. Now, I do have to disagree with you a little bit about Winston. I want Winston to do well. I have not reestablished trust in Winston yet. It's just something about it ain't even so much the on the field stuff. Like, I feel like the talent's there. I mean, this dude did throw 30 touchdowns a couple years ago. Now, he threw 30 interceptions too. He said it was because his eye and he got that fixed. But I'm just more concerned about, again, I wish his off the field matched his on the field. Like, I feel like he might just go ballistic at a Mardi Gras. I have those trust issues with him. I don't feel like he's matured all the way. Now, you're right. I agree with you about Sean Payton developing him. That's the guy that can develop him as far as on the field. But I'm just so scared. I don't want it to happen. But I still have a lot of trust issues with Winston. I don't know when he might snap. And plus, it's New Orleans. Like, I don't know. If it was like a colder city or something, or something that wasn't as eventful as a New Orleans, I might trust a little better. And like you said, Taysom Hill definitely still going to be used as a gadget quarterback. I mean, I almost trust Drew Brees' kid before I completely trust Winston. I don't know. I'm just a little bit concerned there. For a repeat, what else needs to be done in free agency for the Bucks to run it back?
I don't think it matters. I honestly, I don't. I think that the Bucks will have a good season, but I don't think they'll make the Super Bowl again, just because it's just very, very difficult to do. I mean, those stars got to line absolutely perfectly, and you can be a phenomenal team. It's just very, very hard to do. And I mean, you got to have the energies, the frequencies. You got to have it all together, and it just usually does not happen like that. And I just don't think it's just not gonna happen. It just usually doesn't. I'm usually not a betting woman, but if I had to bet, I'd say it won't. Just doesn't.
No, regardless of any other moves that they make in free agency.
I think that they were a pretty complete team last year. I think defensively they were really good. Offensively, they had a lot of weapons, and most of those weapons are coming back or are already re-signed. I don't think it'll make a difference. I think that it's just because even if you have a lot of talent, your talent can be good, but it's all about synchronization. It's all about the day, the time, and what's happening that time. We had a good game, all of the stuff. It's a lot of factors that go into that chemistry. On those days, that time, is everybody playing good that day? Is everybody feeling their best that time? So it's so much that goes into that. I mean, if you look at it, the Chiefs were on pace to repeat. And then 2 games before the final game, they left their tackles. Both of them got injured. The best tackles in the league get injured out of nowhere. And boom, he has no protection. Ow!
Right.
I saw that coming. It just happens like that. And so the irony of that is it's really hard to do. I just don't see it happening. They're not my picks this year.
All right. Well, I agree with you as far as the intangibles. Like I said, you never know when the injury is going to come. It is very difficult to do. We haven't had back-to-back champions since the Patriots, and I think that was 2002, 2003, around there. And then before that, it was the Broncos. But it has definitely been closer to the 20-year time frame where we've seen back-to-back champions. So I totally agree with you on that. But what I will say, though, about Tampa Bay is I really feel like they are doing the right things for a repeat. Dear Super Bowl champion winning teams, this is the blueprint of what you do. So many times a team has won a Super Bowl, and then in free agency, they blow it up. It's dismantled. They don't come to terms, such and such got to get paid, this and the third. Everybody in Tampa right now has been so selfless. Brady, you don't have to pay me this money. Distribute it there. Give this person this money. Everybody has kind of taken a step back because they're looking at the bigger picture of, I want another Super Bowl. And I just really feel like this is the formula that you do. You bring back all those contributors. You keep the same staff. You keep the same formula. When the times get cloudy, when people catch up to that, that's when you make the adjustments. Otherwise, why would you change? You're the champions. People have to catch up to you. You're the measuring stick. You are the person in the mirror that these people are trying to be. So you don't change. People need to catch up to you. So I really like what they're doing. Like you said, those intangibles of injuries and stuff, it is very difficult with you having that target on your back. Everybody is definitely gunning for you. But I will say that the approach that they're taking, not breaking up these pieces, everybody being very, very selfless and coming together and like, yes, we want you back. You come back. Hey, you helped us get this ring. You need to be back. Where you think you're going? You got us the ring. No, you come home. You stay here. Let's run this back. This is the blueprint for it. This is what you do. I mean, these other teams, this is why they have not gone back to back, because they've changed the recipe instead of going back for seconds. Nobody's going to go back for seconds when you change the recipe. If that food ain't as good as it was before, if this ain't the same recipe, if this ain't the same ingredients, some of them change. They might change for the better, but that's a chance that you take. You already know this recipe works, so don't change it. It's like, now KFC, granted, they have fell off. I think they using 5 or 6 spices instead of the 11. But I like, if you working with 11 herbs and spices, and this is what's selling and this is what's working, you keep those 11 herbs and spices. You don't go to 5, you don't go to 4. You keep those, and that's the recipe for success. And I think that keeping everyone intact and forcing people to catch to them. Oh, you wanted this player because he was going to free agency? No, we're keeping him because he helped us get a ring, and we're trying to win a ring again. Like, you want him to help you win a ring, but he's already won us a ring. So that's why he's staying home. So I think that they are doing everything correctly in order to do that. But like you said, the other factors, that might be the stuff that messes it up. But I don't think what the steps that they're taking, I think that they're doing all of that flawlessly. So, all right. So that's the 4 quarters there from the touchdown tomboy and the gridiron guys to WTF2 as we recap the good, the bad, the ugly, and even some of the whys and the uncertainties that free agency of 2021 in the NFL are bringing about. But now let's go to a little bit of overtime here. A little overtime session of blazing round here to really recap this free agency period and really get a synopsis of what we think has transpired so far. So T squared, so far, what team do you think has had the best free agency?
Okay, I got a couple teams here. I know I was only supposed to probably pick one, but I got a couple teams here. And probably an honorable mention. So my team that I felt that they done the best in free agency is, number one, is I picked the Washington football team. They added another receiver to run side of Terry McLaurin because I really like that kid, okay? Then when they got Curtis Samuel, I mean, I would have loved for him to stay in Carolina, but Curtis Samuel is a great addition. He's a versatile back. He could come out of the backfield, play slot. He's very quick. He's very fast. Okay, then they went and got Fitzpatrick, so they got them a good journeyman, and they got him on the low. Okay, and he's good. You know what I'm saying? Like, he can establish, and he's good for the locker room. His presence, like you said, he has a lot of upside to him. Okay, then they went and got him a corner, and William Jackson III. Okay, they went and got that, which they needed to help their secondary. So I really, really like that move. Okay, now the Browns went and beefed up that secondary, okay? The Browns went and got John Johnson to play the safety. Then they went and got Troy Hill at corner. And then they went and got Malik Jackson to play the defensive tackle to help defend, to beef up that defense, okay? And I really like that move because they had some issues on the defensive side of the ball because offensively they look pretty good, but defensive, they struggled a little bit. And so this will help shore up some of those holes on the Browns because the Browns say, hey, we trying to come out the AFC. That's who we want to be, and it should be us. So y'all watch out for Browns next year, okay? They ain't playing okay. Then, of course, you got to get it past some love. The Pats did some good stuff. They went and got two-star tight ends, okay? They did. I mean, what else you got to say? They went and got 2-star tight ends. You got to say much more than that. And then, of course, my honorable mention, just because I just like this whole receiving call, is the The Giants got Kenny Galladay, Darius Slayton. They got Saquon Barkley, Cal Rudolph, Evan Ingram, and Stanley Shepard all on one offense. What is really happening? Are y'all kidding me? If Danny Dimes can get this offense going, they gonna be special. Y'all talking about the Dallas Cowboys? If that offense can get going and that defense play half as consistent as they played last year, their offense gonna be special. That's my honorable mention. But that's all I'm gonna say right now. All right, you girl, you go, you go ahead, nigga. Their offense is gonna be special with Kenny Galladay. I'm telling you, that don't have it. The people ain't hearing it. You listening to what I just said. You ain't listening to what I'm saying.
No, I agree with you, especially going back to what you were saying about Curtis Samuel. He's also reuniting with Ron Rivera. And I think him just having that familiarity, like it's always like the adjustment of going to another team. It's scary. It's new. You got to get used to the city. You got to get used to the fans. You got to get used to the weather, environment, the field. But like I was saying about the J.J. Watt thing, reuniting with Hopkins, that provides some comfort. Somebody's already there that was working with you, that was your teammate, can help hold your hand and guide you. That's the other thing about the Curtis Samuel move. He's reuniting with Ron Rivera. And I think that that's going to help as well. Ron Rivera is already familiar with him. Samuels is already familiar with Rivera. So the gelling there's some instant chemistry right there that you do not have to try to force. It's already organic because you already have the familiarity. So I like the picks that you made there. And I'm not disagreeing with them, but just to kind of add another couple of teams that I think that have been having, that had a really good free agency period. I like the Carolina Bills. I mean, the Buffalo Panthers. Nope, that ain't it either. Buffalo Bills. I mean, they got so many of the players and stuff. I mean, it's almost looking like it's the same team, just one in the AFC, one in the NFC. I mean, I get it. You know, Sean McDermott, he came from Carolina. I get it. I would have scooped the players too. And we see that familiarity has helped. I mean, they won the division last year. They got to the playoffs. You know, I mean, they lost to the AFC champions. You really can't fault them for that. They're well on their way. And I think them getting Emmanuel Sanders is another security blanket there, another weapon for Josh Allen. I like that. They kept their pieces online. They had 2 offensive linemen that were due to go out and seek in free agency, but they kept them at bay. So they secured the bag. No, they secured the offensive line on this. And Mitch Trubisky, I mean, he's going to make a solid number 2 quarterback there. And no surprises. Again, they took another piece from Charlotte in signing F.A. Obada. I don't know if I pronounce his name right. F.A. Obada.
F.A. Obada.
Thank you. Yeah, they took another piece from Charlotte in signing F.A. Obada. So again, Sean McDermott, these are players he knows. He knows Carolina. He knows Charlotte. These are former players he knows, and he has some familiarity and some organic chemistry with that. He does not have to develop from scratch. And I think that has been a huge factor in Sean McDermott having so much success with Buffalo, with him having the Josh Normans, and then him having Brandon Beane, the GM. He was in Charlotte. So I really think setting the foundation with familiar pieces has been huge for McDermott. And I like the move that he made there. And I expect them to continue their dominance in the Brady-less AFC East. Now, on the flip side, touchdown Tomboy, who do you think had the worst? Who's had it, or let me rephrase that. So far, who's had the worst free agency period?
My worst pick would be the Raiders. I have no idea what they just did. They went and got Kenyon Drake when you got Josh Jacobs. Why? And then you have issues on defense and you went and got Kenyon Drake. Why? When you have Josh Jacobs. Why? So it's like, I don't know. That was most puzzling to me, okay? That was more puzzling to me than anything, because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that was the one that I was just like, what? That's what I did. Because I was confused.
Right.
Like, to me, I was like, what are the Raiders doing? So, to me, that was my worst pick. That was my worst pick. I don't know what your first pick was, but that was the one that was just like, so you got Josh Jacobs, who's a beast, To me, Kenyon Drake is a step down, and you go and get Kenyon Drake instead of helping defense, who's a step down, Josh Jacobs, who's still under contract for 2 years for what? Like,
Right.
what was the point? Like, so stuff like that, I don't know what the Raiders doing. But anyway, you go ahead.
I mean, I think you're right, and especially because the Raiders lost a lot of their games because of their defense, not their offense. Like their defense could not get off the field, and people were pounding points on them. It really wasn't their offense couldn't do anything because their offense wasn't on field because the defense was out there so long. So you're right. I don't know why they didn't be more aggressive on the other side of the ball. Of course, I would want to say my Steelers had the worst free agency. Not so much of that. It's just, we had to have Ben. I ain't gonna lie. I'm not the biggest Ben fan, more so because of his off season. His off the field issues with the ladies back in the day. Like, I can never get past that. Ben has won us a lot of games. Ben has lost us a few games too, but Ben has won way more games for us than lost. So we had to have Ben back. I don't see anybody else out there to do what Ben could do in at least one more year. And the other thing, I really wanted Juju to stay around. I really want us to make a long-term deal out of Juju because I'm going to be scared all over again next year. I mean, we do great with, as far as receivers, we've had no problem in having receivers in and having them out. We always do well receivers. And at the end of the day, other than Antonio Brown, but he was with Brady, no receiver has had as much success like Emmanuel Sanders. He's been a journeyman since leaving us. There's been receivers that we've had, I think Lima Swede and them, like after we're done with them, they really don't have much success. Oh, Plexico had success too. But that's not a knock because actually the Giants turned into the Steelers of the NFC. They won their Super Bowl after 3 road games. It's a severe underdog. So I have nothing but respect for the Giants. They were a carbon copy of us. They were just in the NFC. Eli and Ben came out the same year, both first round quarterbacks. So both of them 2 rings. There was a lot of similarities. So I'm not knocking the Giants, but I'm just saying for the most part, when we get receivers, we do very well with them. We ship them out, we get more in, we do very well with them. And a lot of them just did not have success after us. Look at your other boy, Santonio Holmes. He went to the Jets. We beat him in the AFC Championship game. So I'm just like, so I don't necessarily mind the revolving door receivers, but Juju tugs at my heartstrings. Now, that's one of the receivers I really want us to keep. So him not having a long-term deal, I don't like that, but I kind of get why, because we're really probably going to try to set him up for next year. But again, I'm just going to be scared all over again. We're never aggressive enough in free agency. I hate that about us, but we do well in the draft. So I get it. But one year, I just wish we would they would surprise me and just go gung-ho in free agency, like switch it up for me. But so I would say my Steelers, just off the strength of that, because we're just not aggressive enough in free agency. I also think the Bears, I know the attempts for Russell Wilson failed, but Andy Dalton, I don't for that, you should have kept Mitch or Foles, or I don't know. I just don't feel like that was really a true upgrade. And I didn't like the Robinson franchise tag either. The moves that they made to me in free agency kind of reek of possible trade talks to me. Maybe they'll do better in the draft, but since this ain't the draft special, but I feel like what they did in free agency, I foresee some trade talks coming from Chicago. I also don't like what the Falcons have done. Now, the Falcons, to me, they still can't quite get right after that 28-3 debacle that they had in the Super Bowl. They still haven't recovered from that. I don't know if what they're trying to achieve, I don't know if it went up when they blew up their old stadium and if the pieces of that went with it. I don't know. But they traded for a tight end. They got a defensive end. Their salary cap is tight. They just really need to do something about that. They have been unsuccessful in free agency the past few years here, and they've consistently fallen short in free agency. I guess they have the draft on their mind down there in Georgia. I don't know, but I just think that those were the two, again, other than my Steelers, because they weren't aggressive enough to me. I think that the Bears and the Falcons have really shortcome themselves in this free agency. So, touchdown time, boy, who do you think has had the most surprising free agency thus far?
Of course, the damn Patriots, they don't ever spend no money. So when Bill came out there and said, got a Bill, baby, I was like, what? Bill, you spending money? Is Bill mad or not? Like, that was, honestly, that threw me for a loop because I didn't think,
Right.
I knew they had a lot of money to spend, but I didn't think he was going to, and they were overpaying people. They paid Nelson Aguilar $24 million for the dropsies. Like, he ain't making it rain. So that was the most surprising to me. That was really, that was really surprising. I'm trying to think what else was surprising. The I'm gonna be honest, the Rams getting Matthew Stafford was actually very surprising to me because I didn't see Matthew Stafford going to the Rams.
Yeah.
That was actually very surprising to me. Out of all the places, I didn't see him going there. So it'll be interesting to see what Matthew Stafford is going to look like on a real team.
I forgot about that.
So that's going to be, that was very interesting to me. I think, well, I wasn't surprised about it because I still think, even though he's going to be reunited with Frank Rich, I still think he's going to be a disaster. So I think he was bad, and I think that Frank Rich just was going to think that he's going to be better because he's playing for the coach. But I think that Carson Wentz is just a bust, and he just don't know. Like, he's really just a bust. I think that he just had that one good year. It was an anomaly, and he's a bust. And so I can't really say that that was a surprise. So that was a surprise, but I just, yeah. But those would be most of my surprises so far. Really more than anything this season. So those are a couple of the ones that I think were very, very interesting.
Yeah, on the low for me, and it pains me to say this, kind of piggybacking with when you were calling them like having the best draft. I guess I'm not mature enough to say the Cleveland Browns have had. Excuse me. I guess I'm just not mature enough to say that the Cleveland Browns have had the best free agency. I don't think anybody has ever said that in the history of the world. It's accurate, but it's surprising. But like I said, also because that's a division rival, I don't think that I could piece that sentence together. So I will give them more of the honorable mention title and call them by saying have had the most surprising free agency period. For the reasons that you mentioned, like you said, they bulked up in their secondary, get Malik Jackson, that was a huge signing. But part of the other reason why I'm calling them a very surprising free agency is that they really didn't have to open up their wallet a lot for these guys either. It wasn't, they didn't make, these moves were not desperate for Cleveland. Like, Cleveland has been known to make some desperate moves at times, and they didn't do that this year. That surprised me in a good way. Again, I'm growing here because this is a division rival. It's kind of hard for me. And then the way that they ended our season, I'm still kind of a little bit, I mean, I ain't like Atlantic Ocean salty anymore. I might be like Morton's light salty because some time has healed that wound a little bit. But yeah, I'm still a little salty. So I haven't quite flourished into the maturity state of really praising Cleveland like that. But I'll keep it real. I will at least give them that. Kudos to them. I really like this. I think, and I've told people when we lost them, I wasn't even tripping because we deserved to lose. Everything was set up. That, like, we didn't lose that game. We didn't give Cleveland that game. Cleveland came out and outright earned that game, flat out. And this is me keeping it real. I have to be unbiased, and they did that. So that's the same thing about me talking about them in this free agency period. I'm very proud of Cleveland's growth. And I wasn't even tripping off of Cleveland winning that postseason because I think it's very important for a franchise like Cleveland to be successful. They're due. It is very important to the league for a Cleveland Browns organization to do well and have success in the NFL. It's imperative. I hate that it's taken so long because it's an overdue. The fans are owed it. The fans deserve it. Same thing, like, and I'm a LeBron fan. So I was so glad when the Cavs won. Again, biased because of LeBron, but it was time. They were doing. It's important for those type of franchises, or like it's important when a Raiders franchise win. Not so much when like your Patriots, or it was important when the Eagles won. Not just because of how the overdue part, just the storied history of the Eagles. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but back during, I think it might have been the Vietnam War, was one of those wars where so many players got drafted the Eagles and the Steelers had to merge because there weren't enough players, and they were called the Steagles. So I like these reasons are why it's so important for like just the story, the lineage of these franchises. It's important. Same thing with the Browns and how they got moved and they went to Baltimore and they lost their year. These are the reasons why I like it's important for Cleveland to have this successful free agency. It's important for them to have gone to the postseason and finally got that postseason win, even though it was against my boys. So I love the fact that how pleasantly surprising that they moved in this free agency, not being desperate, not spending a lot of money, not doing anything overwhelmingly reeking for a cry for help like they have been known to do. I like the direction that Cleveland is going, including what they've done in free agency. And I appreciate the fact that they made these moves and did not spend a lot of money. Very surprised, very happy for Cleveland. And 2 times a year, they can go 14-2 as long as we beat them. I'm still, that's still, I have not completely matured, but I really am proud of Cleveland's free agency. Very surprised and very proud of what they've done in free agency. So yeah, the NFL draft is approaching. Of course, free agency is still going on, but the bulk of it, the meat of it, we've pretty much seen transpire so far. But the NFL draft is approaching, coming up in Taurus season, by the way, might I add. So the end of April, first couple of days of May, we'll be back with another special then, especially to discuss what blockbuster deal that took place with the Dolphins. You alluded to it earlier. The Dolphins trading their number 3 overall pick to the 49ers for the 12th pick and future picks. This, of course, can have implications on Jalen Hurts, Jimmy G, as you alluded to as well. I mean, Tua, like this trade has really put a bunch of question marks, a lot of anticipation on what's to come. And we would be remiss to not end up talking about that, give at least a recap or a preview. So definitely look forward to another upcoming episode of WTF Too. Even though there's no games planned, we have to talk about that. It's just too much going on. So we'll be tuning back in with you guys again as it gets closer to the draft. Another highly anticipated, especially with that blockbuster trade. We're already looking forward to it anyway, because as we're not out of COVID, but there was so much uncertainty. We might get fans back this year, so it's a little bit more of a promising, a little bit more optimism with this one. So I think people are kind of looking forward to turning to a little bit more of normalcy with this draft that we lost last year. So that anticipation right there within itself, in addition to seeing who you're going to pick, what trades are happening, what moves are happening, and then that blockbuster trade that happened with those teams as well. So yeah, definitely on edge about that. So we'll be tuning back in with you guys as we get closer to the draft, either before the draft, during the draft, or after. We'll come back with another WTF2 episode. We will catch you guys on another episode the next time on WTF2, Women Talk Football 2. Touchdown Tomboy, Gridiron Goddess, we're out.
We out of here.